The New York Jets got to move on from Zach Wilson. There is no way you can go into 2023 with Zach Wilson being your starting quarterback without losing all, if not the entire locker room. I was talking to my friend last night, and I was telling him that I literally cannot understand how a quarterback can be this bad in today's NFL. Zach Wilson, right now, is probably going to go down as the greatest bust in NFL history. He looks worse than Jamarcus Russell. Jamarcus Russell was bad, but Zach Wilson puts the bad in bad. 9 of 18, 92 passing yards and an interception, and got sacked 3 times. Completely awful. And I thought the New York Jets were going to win that game against Jacksonville on Thursday night. Short week. The Jaguars were riding high off a emotional victory. And I didn't think that Zach Wilson played all that bad last week against the Detroit Lions. At least for Zach Wilson standards, that was one of his better games. So I was thinking that he would have a better performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a defense that isn't all that great. Well, Zach Wilson gets benched and outplayed by Chris Streveler. Chris Streveler, a guy who's the third, fourth string quarterback on the Jets roster, outplayed your high draft pick. The New York Jets have to move on from Zach Wilson. Now, moving on from Zach Wilson doesn't mean that Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, their job security is in question. It's not. They still have time to bounce back from missing with Zach Wilson. You can sign Jimmy G in free agency. You can trade for somebody. If you want to try to draft another quarterback, you can do that. But Zach Wilson doesn't set the New York Jets back, only because Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have done such a great job at drafting and developing the young players that they have drafted. So this team is good enough overall that you can overcome having or whiffing in the draft at quarterback, as long as you get the next quarterback right, which I'm pretty confident the New York Jets are. And if you're Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, at this point, you probably are aiming for a vet. But there's no way you should allow Zach Wilson to be the starting quarterback for you in 2023. New York Jets fans feel like they had a team that was good enough to not only make it to the playoffs, but to make a deep playoff run. Similar to those deep playoff runs that they made with Mark Sanchez when they had Rex Ryan as your head coach. And Mark Sanchez wasn't great neither. And yet they were able to get to the AFC Championship with them. So if that Jets team could make it that far in the postseason with Mark Sanchez, and this Jets team can't even get to the playoffs with Zach Wilson, that shows you how bad of a quarterback Zach Wilson is. And for all of you guys who keep on comparing his first couple of games in the league to Peyton Manning, I think we can both look at Zach Wilson and we can both know that he ain't no Peyton Manning. One thing that Peyton Manning has that Zach Wilson apparently doesn't is the work ethic. And that's why I kind of understand how quarterbacks who enter the NFL now, where the transition from college to pros is as easy as it's ever been, with more influence from the college game being implemented into the NFL, there's no reason why a guy like Zach Wilson with his talent should be struggling. He can make all the throws. All he has to improve is his footwork and getting better at understanding NFL defenses. These are things that are a personal problem. You can't put this on Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur. They've tried. I mean, they've done everything. Robert Saleh goes to the podium every single week and continues to instill confidence, or continues to have confidence in Zach Wilson. And you may look at it as him coddling Zach Wilson, but at this point, what do you expect Robert Saleh to say? Oh, yeah, we know Zach Wilson's trash, but we got to go with him anyway. He understands what the magnitude of the situation is. At this point, you thought that Zach Wilson would at least give you a better chance to win than Chris Streveler or Joe Flacco. The New York Jets season is about over. And I'm not a Jets fan, but I'm really hurt to see the New York Jets season going the way it has. Because this team could have done some serious damage in the playoffs with a better quarterback. And I was telling my friend, he was like, the Jets, they're not out of the playoff race yet, JT. They're not mathematically eliminated. And I was like, yeah, they're not, but they might as well be. Because now you don't even control your own destiny. And at this point, you don't even know if Mike White is even going to be able to suit up at any point for the last 2 games with the way that his ribs look. Still can't get cleared by a doctor. And you're probably going to have to go with Chris Streveler next week. The New York Jets playoff hopes are all but over. And the main reason why they didn't make it to the playoffs was because of Zach Wilson. And you can blame it on the injuries. You can say whatever you want to say to make all the excuses you want to for Zach Wilson. But you want to know why the New York Jets invested that high draft pick in Zach Wilson? The reason why you draft a franchise quarterback is because not only does it make it easier for you as a head coach to win, but having a franchise quarterback can help you overcome limitations. You want a good example? The Los Angeles Chargers. They went pretty much the majority of this season without some of their key players on both sides of the football. Several offensive linemen were out. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams didn't start a game with each other until recently. So with this team having so many injuries, you wonder how they were able to stay afloat until they got fully healthy. Justin Herbert. When you have a franchise quarterback, he's supposed to play at a high enough level to help you overcome certain limitations, to help you overcome injuries. So when you have a franchise quarterback like that, you put him in situations like this at the end of the season, you expect him to get you to the playoffs. This was the perfect situation for Zach Wilson this season to show the whole entire Big Apple that he was the guy in New York. And he couldn't do it. This wasn't a bad team. This is a playoff team. They were only a quarterback away from making it to the postseason. That's why I was telling my homie, I was like, the Jets are done. You see, at this point in the season, you cannot have inconsistency at quarterback. Late in the season, you got to have stable quarterback play. You don't need to have fantastic or phenomenal quarterback play, but you need stable quarterback play. You need Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, if he was a starting quarterback for the Jets right now and he was fully healthy, he could get this team to the playoffs. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of quarterbacks who I think could have been good enough to get the Jets to the playoffs. Even bottom of the barrel quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield would have been better than anything Zach Wilson has given you this year. Josh Johnson. You remember him, the dude who's played for damn near half the NFL at quarterback? He could have given you a better chance at making it to the playoffs than Zach Wilson. The New York Jets have to move on from Zach Wilson. He's not Peyton Manning, people. I don't understand how a guy can be this bad. If I was this ass after games, I would be going home watching film all weekend for 72 hours straight. I would even leave the house. You look at what Peyton Manning did after his rookie season. This guy was a filmaholic. Your quarterback needs to be, I'm not going to say he needs to be like a Peyton Manning or Eli Manning when it comes to studying film and whatnot, but you need to see a level of commitment out of your quarterback. And we definitely haven't seen that level of commitment out of Zach Wilson when it comes to putting in the time and the preparation that it takes to be an NFL quarterback at this level. Let me ask you a question. What's next for Zach Wilson after this? Because I don't really see him making another team. He'll probably get picked up and the team will try him out, but I don't know if he'll make a roster. I mean, at best, Zach Wilson would be lucky to crack a team's depth chart as their third string quarterback. Now, I'm pretty confident that a team is going to pick up Zach Wilson if he was to get released by the New York Jets, pick him up and have him sit on the bench. And maybe be somewhat of a little developmental project for a head coach to work on the side. But as far as his future in the Big Apple, it should be done. There's no way if you're Robert Saleh and GM Joe Douglas that you can go into 2023 next year with Zach Wilson as your starting quarterback. The New York Jets should be in the playoffs, but they're not, only because they whiffed that quarterback. And that goes to show you how important the quarterback position is. And that goes to show you just how good of a team the New York Jets are. The New York Jets, imagine if they had Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen at quarterback. They damn near could be undefeated. And look at all of the talent that Zach Wilson has held back. Like, teams aren't even allowing the New York Jets to run the football. They're just stacking the box and saying, beat us with Zach Wilson. Starting Zach Wilson at quarterback is like going into a game with your hands tied behind your back. Starting Zach Wilson at quarterback is the equivalent to bringing a butter knife to a sword fight. I think the future for Zach Wilson, realistically, is either XFL or USFL. That's the best place for Zach Wilson right now. Zach Wilson needs some development, but he needs to be on the field doing it. Zach Wilson isn't going to learn a doggone thing holding the clipboard. Well, he could definitely learn a thing or two holding the clipboard. It just depends on who he's learning from. But if you thought that Joe Flacco was going to be a fantastic mentor to Zach Wilson, yeah, I don't really know why anybody thought that. Joe Flacco, what has Joe Flacco been throughout his whole career outside of that Super Bowl? Average. You thought that Joe Flacco, somebody who was basically the epitome of average, was going to help Zach Wilson mature into a fantastic quarterback? Yeah. The New York Jets, if they're smart, they move on from Zach Wilson at the end of the season. They cut their losses. Part of life is being able to understand when to hold them and when to fold them. And for the New York Jets right now, they don't have a winning hand. They need to put that hand down, draw a new hand, and start over at quarterback. Because Zach Wilson ain't it.